Good evening. So we are beginning module 5. First part of the module 5 is interrupt programming. We are beginning module 5. Module 5 contains 2 parts. You can just see that. You can just see the syllabus. AT51 interrupts and interfacing applications. 8051 interrupts, 8051 assembly language programming to generate an external interrupt using a switch. 8051C program to generate a square wave on a port pin using timer interrupt. So let us see the first part, that is 8051 interrupts. Interrupt programming. What is an interrupt? Interrupt is an external or internal event that interrupts the microcontroller to inform it that a device needs its service. What is an interrupt? Interrupt is an external or internal event that interrupts the microcontroller to inform it that a device needs its service. A single microcontroller serves several devices by 2 ways. A single microcontroller can serve several devices in 2 ways. Whenever any device needs its service, the device notifies the microcontroller by sending it an interrupt signal. Upon receiving the interrupt signal, microcontroller interrupts whatever it is doing and serves the device. Upon receiving an interrupt signal, the microcontroller interrupts whatever it is doing and serves the device. The program which is associated with the interrupt is called interrupt service subroutine or interrupt handler. The program which is associated with the interrupt is called interrupt service subroutine or interrupt handler. Another way is polling. The microcontroller continuously polls the status of the device. When the conditions met, it performs the service. After that, it moves on to monitor the next device until everyone is serviced. So this is the second method. First method is whenever the device needs the service, it notifies the microcontroller. by sending a signal called as the interrupt signal. Upon receiving the interrupt signal, the microcontroller interrupts whatever it is doing and serves the device. The program which is associated with the interrupt is called interrupt service subroutine or interrupt handler. Another method is called as polling. That is, microcontroller itself checks the device, status of the device, whether it requires any service. If it requires any service, it does it. If it requires any service, it does it. So this is called as polling. So polling can monitor the status of several devices and serve each of them as certain conditions are met. The polling method is not efficient because it wastes much of the microcontroller's time. Example of polling is this: jump no bit TF. TF is nothing but so polling can monitor the status of the several devices and serve each of them as certain conditions are met. The polling method is not efficient because it is wasting the microcontroller's time. For example, jump no bit TF target. What do you mean by jump no bit TF target? TF is nothing but whether the timer has, it is timer flag, whether the timer flag is set. When the timer flag is set, when the count loaded in the timer has been elapsed, timer flag is set. So microcontroller is continuously checking the timer flag so that it is wasting its time. So polling method of interrupting is not efficient. So which is an efficient method? Efficient method is a method where the device, whenever it is ready, it itself interrupts the microcontroller so that microcontroller can go on doing its work. Whenever the device needs it, it interrupts the processor. That method is always efficient. That method is always efficient. So polling is not efficient. So the advantage of interrupt is that microcontrollers serve many devices, not at all at the same time. Each devices can get an attention of the microcontroller based on some priority. So for the polling method, it is not possible to assign priority since it checks all the devices in round robin fashion. Advantage of interrupt is microcontroller can serve many devices not at the same time. Based on the priority assigned, the devices can get the attention of the microcontroller. In polling method, it is really not possible to assign the priorities since it checks all the devices in a round robin fashion. Microcontroller can also mask the device requesting for the service. This is not possible in polling. Suppose if the microcontroller is not interested to serve, then what it can do? It can mask the device so that the device cannot interrupt at all. Such a facility cannot be present. Such a facility cannot be, it's not possible for the polling method. Such a facility is not possible for the polling method. So for every interrupt, there must be an ISR, interrupt service subroutine or an interrupt handler. When an interrupt is invoked, the microcontroller runs the interrupt service subroutine. For every interrupt, there is a fixed location in the memory that holds the ISR. So the group of the memory locations set aside to hold the addresses of ISR is called interrupt vector table. This is very important. Understand it properly. For every interrupt, there must be an interrupt service subroutine. When an interrupt is invoked, the microcontroller runs a special subroutine called as the interrupt service subroutine. For every interrupt, there is a fixed location in the memory which holds the address of its ISR. For every interrupt, there is a fixed location in the memory which holds the address of the ISR. The group of the memory locations set aside to hold the addresses of ISRs is called interrupt vector table. So interrupt vector table contains the starting address of interrupt service subroutine. Interrupt vector table contains the starting address of interrupt service subroutine. Upon activation of an interrupt, the microcontroller goes through following steps. What are the steps? It finishes the instruction it is executing and saves the address of the next instruction on the stack. It finishes the instruction it is executing, saves the address of the next instruction, that is where the address of the next instruction is available, always available in the program counter. It will be pushed automatically into the stack. It also saves the current status of all interrupts internally. It is not on the stack. Current status of all the interrupts will be saved internally. It jumps to a fixed location in the memory called interrupt vector table that holds the address of the ISR. Fourth step is microcontroller gets the address of the ISR from the IVT, interrupt vector table, and transfers the control to it. It starts executing the ISR until it reaches the last instruction called return from interrupt, RETI. Upon executing RETI, microcontroller returns to the place where it was interrupted. First, it gets the program counter address from the stack by popping the top 2 bytes of the stack into PC, then starts executing from that address. So this particular slide is very, very important. Explain the procedure of executing any interrupt. It is always having 5 steps. What is that? First step is it finishes the execution of the current instruction and saves the address of the next instruction from the program counter into stack. It also saves the current status of all internally. It also saves the current status of all interrupts internally. It would not save the current status of the interrupts in the stack. It would save somewhere in the buffer. Then it jumps to a fixed location in the memory, which is called as interrupt vector table, to fetch the starting address of ISR. Third step is it jumps to a fixed location in the memory called interrupt vector table to fetch the starting address of the interrupt service subroutine. Then microcontroller gets the address of the ISR from the interrupt vector table. Microcontroller gets the starting address of the ISR from the interrupt vector table and transfers the control to the ISR and starts executing the routine instruction by instruction. When it receives or when the last instruction RETI, return from interrupt, is reached, it returns to the point where it is interrupted. How it returns to the point where it is interrupted? It gets the address from the stack. Whatever was pushed in the first step, next instruction from the program counter that is pushed into the stack, that is popped automatically and it resumes the execution of the main program where it was interrupted. So this is steps of executing an interrupt. Steps of executing an interrupt. So whether the steps of executing an interrupt is understood to everybody, I'm asking in the chat box whether have you understood till here? What do you mean by an interrupt? And always the starting address of the interrupt service subroutine is located in a special memory called as group of memory called as interrupt vector table. I don't know whether everybody is listening my lecture or simply have logged in. So I had explained you whatever I have explained you. Have you understood? I was explaining steps of executing an interrupt. There are 5 steps. So did you understand that? So hope you have understood it. So if some of you have given the message. So now there are 6 interrupts are allocated as follows. Number 1 is reset, power up preset. 2 interrupts are set aside for timers, timer 0 and 1 for timer 1. 2 interrupts are set aside for external interrupts. What are they? P3.2 and P3.3. One is INT 0, another one is INT 1. Serial communication has a single interrupt that belongs to both receive and transfer. So totally how many interrupts are there? 6 interrupts are there. 1 is for reset, 2 is for timers, timer 0 and timer 1. 1 is for serial communication, another 2 is external interrupts, INT 0 and INT 1. So interrupt vector table looks like this. Reset, starting address of the ISR is always 0000. Pin number is 9. That is, if you press any reset button, a special ISR is executed which starts from 0000. The external hardware INT 0, its starting address is available at 0003. Timer 0, TF0, its starting address is available at 000B. External hardware INT1, its starting address is available at 0013. Timer 1, 001B, serial communication, both RI and TI, common interrupt, it is 0023. So this is the interrupt vector table which gives the starting address of ISR. Which gives the starting address of ISR. You can just see there, origin 0, wake up ROM reset location. ROM reset location is always 0. There you are writing LJMP main, bypass interrupt vector table. So as 0 is reserved for interrupt vector table, you have to bypass it. That is why always you write LJMP main. Only 3 bytes of the ROM space are assigned to the reset pin. So we put the LJMP as the first instruction to redirect the processor away from interrupt vector table. Processor should not execute any data present in interrupt vector table. That is why always at the beginning you put an instruction LJMP main so that it will jump to a different place and start executing the program. So always only 3 bytes are provided there. That is why you are writing LJMP main, just to bypass the interrupt vector table. It is the normal practice. Upon reset, interrupts are disabled, masked, meaning that none will be responded by the microcontroller if they are activated. So interrupts must be enabled by software in order for the microcontroller to respond to them. So there is a register called as interrupt enable register that is responsible for masking and unmasking the interrupts. So in the microcontroller, there is a register called as interrupt enable register. That interrupt enable register contains the provision for masking and unmasking the interrupts. This is the format of interrupt enable register. D7 is EA. It disables all interrupts. IE.6 is not used. IE.5 is ET2. Enable or disable timer 2 overflow or capture interrupt. ES IE.4 enables or disables serial port interrupt. ET1 enables or disables timer 1 overflow interrupt. EX1 enables or disables external interrupt 1. ET0 IE.1 enables or disables timer 0 overflow interrupt. IE.0 enables or disables interrupt external interrupt 0. You can just see that. See, there are only 2 timers in 8051. In 8952 there are 3 timers. So bit number 5 is not used. Bit number 6 is not used. Always we use bit number 0, bit number 1, bit number 2, bit number 3, bit number 4, and bit number 7. Bit number 7, if you make it 0, it disables all interrupts. So always, if you want to set all interrupts, you have to make bit number 7 1. Afterwards, independently, you can disable. Suppose serial port interrupt you do not want, then you substitute IE.4 as 0. Suppose if you do not want external interrupt 0, you substitute as 0. So this is the way where interrupt enable register is used. Interrupt enable register is used to set or enable any interrupts. To set or enable any interrupts. To enable an interrupt, we take the following steps. Bit D7, I have already told this. Bit D7 of IE register must be set to high to allow the rest of the register to take effect. The value of EA, if EA is 1, interrupts are enabled and will be responded to if any bits in IE are high. If EA is 0, no interrupts will be responded. So if you want to program the remaining interrupts, the very first thing which you have to do is you have to set EA as 1. You have to set EA as 1. So there is an example for you. Show the instructions to enable serial interrupt, timer 0 interrupt, external interrupt 1, disable or mask the timer 0 interrupt. Show how to disable all the interrupts with a single instruction. See here. So interrupt enable register should be loaded with EA should be 1. You want serial interrupt, so IE.4 should be 1. This is IE.4. You want external interrupt 1. Timer 0 you want, so it is IE.2 and then external interrupt 1 is IE.1. So you have to store the data, binary data. That is why you are putting it here as B. You have to copy. Another way to perform the same manipulation is using this set bi.7, set bi.4, set bi.1, set bi.2. Enable timer 0, enable ex1. In this way also you can put. How to disable timer 0? Clear IE.1, CLR IE.1. So that will mask timer 0. How to disable all interrupts? Clear IE.7. If you clear IE.7, it will disable all interrupts. It will disable all interrupts. So have you understood this? So I am asking you, have you understood? Programming interrupts. Have you understood? So that is, if you want to program any interrupts, then you have to program a register called as IE register. 7th bit of the IE register, if you make it 1, you can program the remaining interrupts. If you put it as 0, you cannot program any other register, any other interrupts. That is why if you want to enable all the interrupts, first you have to make EA as 1, then use all other bits to program. Have you understood this? I got only one answer. I don't know whether all are listening or simply you are putting yes. I don't know. So are you listening me? Timer flag is raised when the timer rolls over. This we have seen. Let us talk about an interrupt called as timer interrupt. Timer flag is raised when the timer rolls over. In polling TF, we have to wait until TF is raised. So this problem with this method is that the microcontroller is tied down while waiting for TF to be raised and cannot do anything other than that. To solve this problem, interrupts can be used. If the timer interrupt in the IE register is enabled, whenever the timer rolls over, TF flag is raised. The microcontroller is interrupted, whatever it is doing, and jumps to the interrupt vector table to service the ISR. In this way, microcontroller can do other work until it is notified by the timer rollover. See here, TF0 is 1. When TF0 is 1, it jumps to a interrupt vector table. That is, the location is 000B. When TF1 is 1, program jumps to 001B automatically. But in our program, we were polling the timer flag using JNB instruction. In the module 4, you have to just recall, we were using JNB TF. Here, until TF is equal to 0, don't do anything. Wait there only. So microcontroller is simply wasting its time. Microcontroller is simply wasting its time. To avoid that, what you can do? You can enable the particular bit in the IE register so that whenever timer rolls over, automatically microcontroller is interrupted. So this is how timer flag can be configured using interrupts. You can just see the example. Write a program that continuously gets 8-bit data from P0 and sends it to P1s while simultaneously creating a square wave of 200 microseconds on pin 2.1. Use timer 0 to create the square wave. So the main work of the microcontroller is to send the data continuously on P0 and sends it to P1 simultaneously. The interrupt should be used for generating the square wave of 200 microseconds. So we will use timer 0 in mode 2 auto reload mode. TH0 should be loaded with 100 divided by 1.085 microsecond. Why it is 100? Because in a square wave of the period 200 microsecond means the on period is 50%, that is 100. That is why what is the period given 100 microsecond? Period is 200 microsecond. What is the on period? On period is divided by 200 microseconds. So 100 microseconds divided by the clock frequency. Clock frequency is 1.085 microsecond. So what should be the count? Count should be 92 decimal. 92 decimal. So in the program, I have already told you from 0 vector interrupt vector table is there. So you have to bypass. So you have to write LJMP main. Now you have to write the ISR for timer 0 to generate a square wave. Here you can just see origin is what? Timer 0 interrupt is 000B. 000B is the starting address. CPL P2.1, that is toggle P2.1, because P2.1 is containing some status. Suppose if it's containing 0, if you complement what happens, it becomes 1. Return. So it will give you your square wave. It will give you your square wave. When it will give square wave? When it gives square wave. Here you can just see here. Timer 0 is programmed in auto reload mode. Make port 0 as input port. Timer 0 should be loaded with -92, that is A4. From A4, it increments till FF. From A4, it increments till FF, which will generate when the timer rolls over. When the timer rolls over, it will be interrupted. Why it will be interrupted? Because you can just see that interrupt enable register is loaded with 82. What is 82? 1 followed by 10000 0010. You see, MSB is 1. MSB is 1 indicating that it enables all the registers, enable all the interrupts. And IE.1 is made 1 just to enable timer 0 interrupts. Start the timer. When you say start the timer, set B TR0, what happens? From TH0 A4, it increments till FF. When it increments till FF and initializes to A4, automatically it generates an interrupt. When it generates an interrupt, what happens? It complements it. Complements the line. When it complements the status, what happens? It will keep on generating a square wave. It will keep on generating a square wave. Other time, what it is doing? It is simply reading the data from P0, copying it to P1 simultaneously. So this particular program, what is it doing? It is sending a data. It receives some data on P0 and copy it to P1 simultaneously. But whenever the timer rolls over, it generates a square wave on P2.1. You don't know how many of you have understood this program. So have you understood this program? I don't know. Have you understood? Or should I repeat? Have you understood or should I repeat? Many fellows have logged out. Now only 5 members are there with me. So I have to repeat once again, it seems. Okay, let me repeat. So I will write it and show you. I will write it and show you. So MC new section I will have. So program on interrupt. So it is like this. So this is your microcontroller. So in the program, what it is asked, on P2.1, you have to generate a square wave of period 200 microsecond. So this is the on period. So this is the on period. So this will be 100 microsecond. So for generating 100 microsecond pulse, TH1 or TH0, timer 0. So using timer 0. Using timer 0. So TH0 should be 100 divided by 1.085 microsecond, which is the clock frequency. So this gives you 92 in decimal. So your move TH0 should be loaded with minus 92 decimal. That is, what is minus 92? Minus 92 in hexadecimal is A4H. That is from A4H till FF, it goes on increments and it rolls over. And rolls over to A4. So at this time, timer interrupt will be generated. Timer interrupt will be generated. Timer interrupt will be generated. At this time, the timer interrupt will be generated. So when the timer interrupt is generated, what it is doing? Suppose P2.1 is 0, it simply complements it. It complements like this. And it will be 1. Once again, when it generates an interrupt, it once again complements. So it generates 0. And it will be 0 only. If there is once again an interrupt, it once again complements it. So like that, it is generating a continuous pulse of period 100 microseconds, so that it looks like a square wave of 200 microsecond period. That is, at every point when there is an interrupt, it goes on complementing the status on P2.1 line. At the same time, what it is doing, it is receiving some data on P0 and it copies it on P1. It copies it on P1. So P0 is an input port. P0 is an input port. So normal job of microcontroller is reading on P0 and copying it to P1. This is the normal job. This is the main task. So this is the main task. So this is the interrupt task. So at the time of interrupt, at the time of rollover of the timer, there will be an interrupt. So that microcontroller is doing the normal job and generating the square wave, which is the interrupt job. It is done simultaneously. So when there is an interrupt, only square wave is generated. Otherwise, it is doing its normal job of reading on P0 and copying it to P1. So now we can just see that. So we will use timer 0 in mode 2. So this I told you. So at the C, in origin, memory location 0, there is an interrupt vector table. That is why it is skipping that. It is bypassing that location, and it goes to main program. See, this is the main program. It goes here. In this particular main program, what you are doing, you are configuring the timer in timer 0 mode 2. Then you are configuring P0 as input port. You are loading the timer with -92 or A4. You are configuring the interrupt enable register with the MSB as 1. See here, MSB as 1 and IE.1 as 1. Timer interrupt you are enabling. You are starting the timer. After you start the timer, what you are doing? You are reading P0 and you are copying it to P1. This is the common work you are doing continuously. But when the timer rolls over, there will be an interrupt. When there is an interrupt, it jumps to the interrupt service subroutine. In interrupt service subroutine, what is it doing? It complements P2.1. I told you what do you mean by complementing P2.1? Complementing P2.1 is nothing but it is here. You can just see. Earlier P2.1 is 0. When there is an interrupt, it complements it. Waits until 100 microseconds. Once again, it complements it. So that it is generating a square wave. It is generating a square wave. So generation of the square wave. So generation of the square wave and copying it from P0 to P1 is done simultaneously. So this is the program. So now have you understood? So now have you understood? Now whether you have understood? Okay. So like this, various programs are there. So write a program to generate a square wave of 50 Hertz frequency on P1.2. This is similar to the whatever example we have seen in the previous chapter. Here the only difference is we are using an interrupt. That's all. We are using an interrupt. So if you understand this particular program just now which I have explained, it is sufficient. AT51 has two external interrupts also. Pin 12, that is P3.2, pin 13, P3.3 of 8051 is designated as INT0 and INT1. They are used as external hardware interrupts. So the interrupt vector table locations 0003 and 0013 are set aside for INT0 and INT1. There are two activation levels for the external hardware interrupts. One is level trigger and another one is edge trigger. So this we would see it in the next class.